Good afternoon. Welcome to Long Live Third Parties podcast. Free Press Media Press Inc., a third parties books publisher, sponsors this podcast. I'm Andrew Bichard. Today I read the case State Ex Rel. Browne versus Hechler, 476 SE 2D 559, West Virginia Supreme Court of Appeals, 1996. Friends, the Libertarian Party is the party of this case, and it also applies to other third parties. So let us see what the Libertarian Party has done. Anybody out there remember Harry Browne? You newcomers to the scene, you young people may not know that name, but I know that name because in the first election that I was eligible to vote in, I voted for Harry Browne. I voted for Libertarian straight out of the gate. Third party was the way to go. I knew then, just like now. Did you vote for Harry Browne back in 96? If you didn't, I hope you voted for the Green Party candidate or one of the other third parties. So what did Harry Browne do? Interestingly, friends, Jo Jorgensen is also on this case. The subtitle of this case is State of West Virginia Ex Rel. Harry Browne, Jo Jorgensen, and the Libertarian National Committee, Inc. Relators versus Ken Hechler, Secretary of State Respondent. Everyone knows who Jo Jorgensen is now because she just ran the last election. So what happened in this case? Let's read from the record. It says, quote, "This election mandamus proceeding involves interpretation of the statutory requirements for placement on the general election ballot of third-party presidential and vice presidential candidates. The dispute arose after the respondent rejected certificates and related filing fees submitted by the petitioners Browne and Jorgensen as untimely. The petitioners complained that the respondent has misinterpreted a proviso contained in West Virginia Code 3.5.23a 1986. End quote. And then it continues. It says, quote, "Due to impending deadlines for ballot preparation, we are issuing our decision by opinion while the court is in vacation." End quote. Good job, court. You took away time for your vacation to do something for the public. That is good for you. Some people would say, no, we're just going to have our vacation, you have to wait. But whatever they were doing on their vacation, whether it was eating cotton candy, it was riding a horse, it was surfing, the judges decided to hear this case. Good job, judges. Also, good job to the Libertarian Party. Some people aren't like the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party is not the type to just let things go and let rights vanish. They are willing to fight for this type of thing. I've seen again and again. So good job, Libertarian Party. The decision also continues. It says, quote, "On October 4th, 1995, the Libertarian Party filed with the respondent a petition informing him of its intention to place candidates for the office of President and Vice President on the 1996 general election ballot. On May 10th, 1996, the Libertarian Party submitted over 20,000 signatures endorsing its nominating petition and inclusion of its candidate on the general election ballot." End quote. Good job, Libertarians. 20,000 signatures, that's a lot. I can't imagine how hard that would be. When I ran for county board, I didn't need 20,000 signatures. No. I needed far fewer. And that was a challenge for me back then. So I imagine 20,000. That is a great thing you did. Way to go. Way to go. It also talks about how the Libertarians had to file $2,000 to pay for this. The bone of contention here is whether they met the deadline. The state said it was one thing, but the Libertarians said it was another thing. And they just talk about the law, West Virginia Code 3-5-7. The Libertarians say it was August. The state says it was July. So are the judges sympathetic to Libertarians? From what you may have realized from these cases we have discussed, and maybe from your personal views of courts, is the court was not sympathetic. Indeed, a lot of these cases the court are not sympathetic. Well, what happened here? I liked what the court says. It says, quote, therefore we hold, pursuant to West Virginia Code 3.5.23a, 1986, the deadline for filing with the Secretary of State certificate and fee for a person seeking ballot access to the candidate for the office of President or Vice President as nominee of a third party otherwise qualifying for inclusion on the general election ballot by a method other than primary elections the first day of August preceding the general election. Such persons are not required to file a declaration of candidacy pursuant to West Virginia Code 3.5.7, end quote. How do you like that, friends? Let's say hooray! Hooray! They saw the point of view of our libertarian friends. And they also conclude this way. They say, quote, because the petitioners have established a legal right to have their certificates and fees accepted, the legal duty of the respondent to accept such certificates and fees in the absence of any other adequate remedy, we grant a writ of mandamus compelling the respondent to process the certificates and fees submitted by the petitioners. Writ granted. End quote. What does that sound like, friends? That sounds like a victory for third parties. Way to go, Libertarian Party. Way to go. I wasn't in West Virginia then. I was in Illinois. So maybe we'll come across an Illinois ballot trial for Harry Browne. I'm glad the West Virginia voters got the opportunity to vote for Harry Browne. Harry Browne and Joe Jorgensen, you guys did the good thing here. You may be thinking, time to end the podcast. You conclude it. Indeed, we covered the main points and we summarized the gist of this trial. I do see an interesting remark in a footnote. That's why I like to look at footnotes. A lot of the times I don't find that stuff we need to address, but here I see something. It says, quote, although from the frequency of lawsuits regarding third-party access to the ballot, one might conclude that there is a tendency for the Secretary of State to interpret any statutory ambiguity in a manner which excludes third-party candidates. We sympathize with the difficulty in deciphering the inartful and contradictory language used in the relevant statutes and urge the legislation to consider clarifying standards and procedures for third-party ballot access. End quote. A couple things strike out at me from this passage. One of which is they mention the frequency of third-party challenges to these ballot access laws. It's good to know it's happening frequently because it shows that we're fighting. Hopefully enough frequency will make it easier for our side to win in the end. They also note the states tend to have a bias against third-party candidates and take whatever they can get to deny them access. So some people might say, you third-party people are paranoid. The courts are fair, the court clerks are fair, the Secretary of States are fair, all of them are fair. You guys are just paranoid. Maybe not. Maybe not. Also, I like to see them telling the legislators to write better law. Let's celebrate this, friends. Let's celebrate this. Way to go, Libertarian Party. Way to go, Harry Browne. Way to go, Joe Jorgensen. Long live third parties.